something you learned? Were you born an entrepreneur?
You got to start small.
I have not allowed being a woman to hold me back.
Credibility is not just making money, it's about making sure that people trust what you're doing.
Law practice is not only about going to court, it's about advice.
It's very difficult to hire somebody who's not motivated and then make them motivated.
One of the things that I'm known for is integrity.
They have to see you as a person of integrity.
Hello and welcome. This is the Executive Lounge with me, Inshira Ado, your thought leadership show that brings you nuggets of insights from the lives and work of men and women who have scaled the daunting heights of starting their own businesses or managing institutions right here at home and around the world. Today, my guest is a celebrated plastic surgeon, but before then, started out as an internist, so an internal medicine specialist, then went on to do obstetrics and gynecology, and then dropped the obstetrics. We'll find out all about that in a moment. Dr. Kwasi, Debra is my guest on the Executive Lounge. You're welcome.
Thank you, Isha.
Good to meet you finally.
Oh, yes, I'm very happy about
It's quite
that.
intriguing to find a doctor who, of course, Ghanaian, but you practice in the States, and somehow you have a love for coming home every year. So since 2006, in fact, you were doing that before then, but in 2006, you actually opened a practice here in Ghana.
Yes, I did. I saw the need for some of the work that I do in America being absent in Ghana. And I decided, let me just see what's going on. So I started just by putting out word and coming on certain times of the year.
Mm-hmm.
And then before I knew, there was a lot of demand. And a lot of the demand had to be with people who had been other places, were not happy with the service or the quality of work. And so it allowed me to work on them, and they kept coming back. And that's the nature of the game.
Let's try and we'll get to what you do now. But I'm intrigued by how you start out as a medical doctor, internist, then you become an obs and gynae, and then you add another layer. How did it all start for you?
Well, from secondary school, I went to medical school in Kwasi.
Mm-hmm.
Then when I completed, I decided I would like to go outside and pursue postgraduate training.
Okay.
So I went to the Howard University Hospital in the U.S., Washington, D.C. area. And I started there, it was a transitional year.
Mm-hmm.
So I did all areas of, medicine, that is general surgery, emergency medicine, rotations, chronic care unit, intensive care, surgical intensive care, So I had a great background. And then after actually during the preliminary year, I was offered a position into obstetrics and gynecology. And because I had done quite a bit of obs and gynae here in Ghana, I was offered a second-year position to get into obstetrics and gynecology because somebody had moved to another state. Unfortunately, my program director, he liked me so much, he said, no, I will not let you go. But anyway, so I stayed on and completed internal medicine, but I still wanted to go to obstetrics and gynecology. So I did 2 years of internal medicine, and then I went back. The internal medicine is 3 years, so I did 2 years. Then I went to start again obstetrics and gynecology and completed that. And then after that, I started practicing, in Richmond, Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
During that time, I went to College of William and Mary and did an executive program in executive MBA.
Okay.
You know, so that was a 20-month program. Very exciting. Met all kinds of people, you know, from all walks of life. But it was a great experience to, you know, work with business people, accountants, and, you know, stuff like that. So when I completed that, I, you know, decided that, look, let me dabble into what they called managed care. So I work with Blue Cross and Blue Shield in Richmond as an assistant medical director. And, you know, we were doing quality assurance, pre-certification of, you know, physicians who, you know, wanted to provide care for patients, you know, approve them and all that. And did that for about 6 months. I got tired. And then, you know, I decided to just move on my own. And so I moved. I was then in Richmond, Virginia. So I moved to Washington metropolitan area. And then I put a group of doctors together, and we opened outpatient surgical center. You know, there were three of us Ghanaians and some Nigerians and some African Americans. You know, so so we opened Forbes Ambulatory Surgery Center, 10,000 square feet of space. You know, we started very busy. We were working. You know, everything was going fine. And so during that time, I was still doing some obstetrics and as well as gynecology. And I decided that I probably, you know, wanted to get into cosmetic surgery. And that's when I went for additional training. And then I did preceptorship with different plastic, you know, cosmetic surgeons, you know. So this was apprenticeship, you know, so I would go and work with them, you know, several months and then move on. So eventually I gained the skills, and I thought, you know, that it would be one trip when I came to Ghana, you know, I looked around and I realized that there was nobody offering that service, you know. So we started with just the injectables, you know. We do injections, they call them fillers, and Botox, you know, on the face and all that. You know, people were catching on, you know, to it. And I saw that there was a good demand. So, you know, I went back and did some more training in especially the number one thing a lot of Ghanaian women want. I call it redistribution of fat. You know, the fat is in the wrong place and they want it in the right place. You know, so give them a flat tummy, give them a narrow waist, move some fat for projection and the hips. And, you know, it caught on. And that's what I've been doing since.
That's interesting. I mean, cosmetic surgery for the fat redistribution you just described is a very, I think for the lack of a better expression, I'd say it's a bit of a controversial area here in our society for two reasons. One, that there's a school of thought that women who do that are vain. And as conservative as we try to be in this society, you can appreciate that. Number two is that it costs too much money to do, and if you don't have the money, you can't do it. Or if you did, you would end up spending all your money and you need to keep going back. And I think the third thing has to do with the fact that the global pop culture and the examples that we can see from those tend not to be the women who are regularly going about their lives as career women or stay-at-home moms who just want to look good. You know, we tend to see these people as celebrities of very interesting repute, if I could say that. Why do you feel that women still, in spite of these connotations, would come to you and want things like that done?
That's very interesting, the observation. It's very true. What it is that, you know, women like to at least my observation, they like to discuss issues among themselves and make decisions in small groups. And that really pulls them to one direction or other. And a lot of these procedures, if you happen to find the right person, the risks are very, very minimal. And so once they see their friends going for these procedures, they get comfortable, and they would like to be able to have those procedures. Now, there also is the pressure from watching channels like Batch, you know, on TV. People watch it and see all kinds of stuff, and then they begin to imagine that, oh, after all, these things can be done, you know, and they would like to explore. So, I mean, I have patients who have been following my YouTube channel for maybe 4, 5, maybe 6 years before they finally get the courage to come and see me, you know, and they tell me about everything that I've been doing, and I'm you know, I'm like, so I've become a celebrity myself. So now, in terms of cost, you know, I think I wouldn't say it's cheap, but because people are able to afford it, I say it's affordable. But, you know, like everything else in life, the things that, you know, if you put your mind to, sometimes you should be able to get the resources to be able to get that done. And the inner satisfaction that people get when they have it done, it's just amazing. And I'll give you one example. I had a patient who came to see me just recently who had just had a baby within the month or so. And she was, unfortunately, she lost the baby, okay? She was very depressed. She, you know, wouldn't even smile when she came to see me. And, you know, I'll crack a joke, you know, she wasn't even smiling. And she wanted to get a procedure done, you know. And I said, okay, we'll go for it. So I did. I checked her out, everything was fine, and eventually we had a procedure. Very successful. And then I went back to, you know, check on her as I normally do in the, while she was on admission. And I asked her, have you looked at yourself in the mirror? You know, her room had a floor-to-ceiling mirror that, you know, she go and look at herself and all that. And then she says, she started smiling for once. I said, wow. I mean, what a difference something like that makes for somebody who, I thought she was just going through some, maybe a mild form of depression or something like that. But, you know, it was just incredible, you know. What some of these things can do for people, it's very therapeutic. And, you know, she, you know, I mean, she's in a different world, you know. So this is, you know, just to say that it can change people's lives, you know, both physically, emotionally, and, you know, even professionally. You know?
So because they have that inner confidence and they're happy within themselves.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely.
It's interesting you talk about these things. The range of possibilities or procedures that are available, everything from what is can be seen by everyone and things that we can't see unless you have the license to.
Absolutely. It depends on the type of license.
You know?
No, that's true. I mean, you know, fortunately, you know, for the most part, you know, I tell patients, this is bespoke service, okay? So I actually tell patients, bring a picture of when we're doing the Brazilian butt lift, for instance, bring a picture of what you'd like to look like, you know, and let's work on it. And I try my best. This is like it's like sculpturing, you know, art form. Try my best to replicate.
So you use science to create art?
Oh, my brother. You see, this area of medicine is exciting, and we don't talk about it the way we should, but it is called regenerative medicine. You know, and when you start talking about regenerative medicine, you know, a lot of people may not even understand, but it's taking a cell from one area, put it to another area, and that cell will survive and grow. So it's like transplant. And when you do that, and you know, it's natural, you're not putting any implant, you know, people get excited because they see a transformation in themselves. And they just, you know, but they don't focus on that. They're looking at the aesthetics, just the outside, you know, and that's truly remarkable. You know, I mean, we just go in, you know, because somebody has studied and developed a device that allows you to really take the fat, prepare the fat, and place it safely where it's supposed to go. And if you follow the instructions and do what you're supposed to do, you get it right. I mean, but of course, you need to have a certain kind of eye to be able to sculpt that body, you know, because when you look at sculpting and you're doing like a clay, you're actually taking things down to get to where you want to be. This time, you're actually adding stuff on to get to where you want to be. If you put in too much, you did them wrong.
Okay.
If you put in too little, you are in trouble. So getting that precision and even estimating that, okay, you're going to lose maybe 15 to 20% of the cells that you put in naturally because of pressure and blood supply and all that and the movement. And so if you don't do it right, then you scratch your head and say, man, what did I do? You know, because that's cosmetic surgery. It's not what you take out, but what you leave behind, because that's what the person is going to go home and, you know, that's how they're going to look because of what you leave behind. If you leave too much behind, they're not happy. If you leave too little behind, you're in trouble. So that is
Wow,
what we
this
do.
is quite intriguing. So in a world where, like you said, there are whole TV shows about how it's gone wrong for some people, and we read about this. How can one, what should I look out for, and what do people look out for or should look out for when they're making that decision? Right here in Ghana, we've had some controversy with some of the procedures going wrong in places. And so it's easy for people to think cosmetic surgery is dangerous. I won't do it in Ghana. Why should I be confident in, say, a Dr. Kwasi Debra, or and then you're the second plastic surgeon I'm talking to, a cosmetic surgeon, Dr. Michael Obing.
Right.
You know, why would I feel confident to come to you? What should I look out for?
Well, you know, I think the one of the, and I thought about some of these things when I did a video of a live patient in, doing one of my surgeries, and then I put that out on my YouTube channel. Essentially, what it is that I wanted people to know exactly what we do in the operating room, because you know, if you're not confident with what you're doing, if you're not doing things the way it's supposed to be, if you're not sure things are going to go right, you know, you wouldn't have a live camera in, you know, like video in the operating room. So I did that and went through the steps to say, okay, this is what we do, this is what we do. These are things that can go wrong, and this is how we prevent them, And, and I showed the procedure as I'm doing it. And it's not about somebody going to look at my degree or my bio and trying to make a decision. That is there. But, in cosmetic surgery, it is the skill set that you have to be able to do which is what the patient wants, because it's bespoke. And those are the things that people need to look at, to be able to make decisions, because they, on one hand, yes, they need to look at the skill set. Two, they need to look at some before and after pictures. And there are times, and I'll give you one example. There was somebody who was starting out. He didn't have enough cases to do the procedure. He hadn't done enough cases. He hasn't done enough procedures. So his before and after pictures, he would actually Photoshop them. One buttocks was normal, the other buttocks was the normal one. You don't know where they got the
abnormal one from.
You see what I'm saying? And so at the end of the day, when you go, and I think it's worth anybody's while to have a consultation. But before then, go on the internet, look at stuff, and write questions down, so that those are the things that will make you comfortable, with the doctor. Yeah. And then when you go to the doctor, just find out, because the intuition that people have is so important in making these decisions, And if you know somebody who has had a procedure with that doctor, I think it's good to talk to them and find out, did they address all your problems? If you don't go in with a set of questions that you can get answers to, then you're shortchanging yourself.
Totally. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll be learning more from my guest, Dr. Kwasi Debra, talking cosmetic surgery and what regenerative medicine could do for you. And we'll also learn a little more about himself as a person and some of the things that he's had to battle to grow his own business and rise in his field of choice. Stay tuned for more. Welcome back to the Executive Lounge. I'm Inshira and my guest is Dr. Kwasi Debra. Doc, you talked about, your career as an internist, and you did obstetrics and gynecology. But now you're doing more of the gynae and cosmetic surgery. What was the inspiration that made you move away from the obstetrics and then decide that you wanted to do, cosmetic surgery?
All right, thanks for the question. And I've been asked that many times, even my patients do. Well, basically, the obstetrics part was really labor intensive. And, it really kills you, because you have to be up all night, all kinds of time delivering babies. In America, we don't get the luxury of having a lot of midwives doing the deliveries for us. We have to do the deliveries ourselves. So, I was with a group practice, and, I just would be up all night, sometimes delivering babies, and, it was wearing me down. So I decided to drop the obstetrics and, focus on the gynecology. Now, at some point during the time that I was doing hysterectomy for patients, these are patients who have problems with fibroids or some bleeding problems, and they needed hysterectomy. And I would notice that they say, look, doc, look at my flappy abdomen, and I need, can you do a tummy tuck for me? At the time, I had not learned how to do tummy tuck. So I would bring in a plastic surgeon, and we would work together.
Right.
So it was just apprenticeship. After doing several of these tummy tucks with a plastic surgeon, I gained the confidence to be able to do it on my own. And then I shifted over to add tummy tucks, to my procedures. And then I went ahead and actually did additional training in other areas, adding what they call Botox. Botox, is treating frown lines, with injections. I did fillers to do the grooves, the smile lines, to fill the smile lines. And, I added, a few other things. Now, the industry in aesthetics, they call it in America, is huge, and it's a lot of money. And companies come up with all kinds of devices, and now when they come up with devices, they don't go back to medical school to train or residency to the doctors to get them trained. They bring it out to the doctors, invite us for events. Sometimes they take us out, for, stay in hotels in the weekend so that we can learn some of these. They introduce them and they let us try these new technologies, and, over time, whilst we get comfortable and we know how to provide these services for our patients, we go ahead and, lease these machines, So we have, machines that would do the latest, two of the latest areas, really, using radio frequency and microneedling.
Wow.
Now, radio frequency is the type of energy that can pretty much create what they call, when it heats under the skin, cause like a shrink wrap. It can tighten skin.
Okay.
So that is, everybody's, producing a machine that has radio frequency. And so we use that, with the microneedling. And when you use that in certain areas, it's able to tighten the skin. The big one really in that market is a company called InMode, and they produce a machine called Body Tight. What a name. So they're trying to tighten your body.
That's right.
So it comes as it's like a wand, and after you've anesthetized the patient, you put it under their skin, and you go back and forth, and then it monitors you see it on the screen. It monitors the temperature, so that it doesn't go over, and it's safe, and it allows for you, as you go back and forth, deliver amount of energy that will tighten the skin. All right. There's another one called Renuvion J plasma. Renuvion J plasma uses energy called helium, and there again, the radio frequency will ignite the helium, and that also you pass under the skin, and that creates a tighter shrink wrap, than the radio frequency on its own. So all these things are there, and once you get into the field of cosmetic surgery, you learn from the industry, and they come in, they teach you, they actually set up doctors that they train, and if you're interested, they send you over to understudy and work with them. They show you how the machine works. They show you you can use them on. And that really is, how we do these things in America. And I bring the technology back home to Ghana.
For some people, they may have had complications during childbirth, and it does take away a little bit of their self-esteem. Would that with surgery that corrects situations like that be classed as and seen in the light as we see cosmetic surgery? Or would you place that under reconstructive surgery?
Well, reconstructive surgery, that's part of plastic surgery. They call plastic and reconstructive. It restores function.
Okay.
and cosmetic surgery enhances beauty.
Okay.
Now, if, for instance, if you end up in the emergency room following a motor vehicle accident and you have a big, say, a broken elbow and laceration or a big cut in your skin. Now, if the first thing the plastic surgeon would do, they probably bring an orthopedic surgeon so that they can restore function and make sure the bone is, if there's broken bone, heals. Then they go ahead and restore function in terms of putting everything together and making it look nice. Okay. But the focus is not really enhancing beauty.
So you could end up still having function but with a scar.
Exactly. And so that's really when cosmetic surgery comes in to enhance beauty, and so you may need a skin graft, you may need, other things that, can enhance your beauty. That's really the difference.
Okay, well, that's great. You work with clients from all over the world. Yes. What inside of you, I mean, what made you think that, okay, well, I'm Ghanaian, I'm seeing clients wherever I am. I think you're currently in Maryland.
Yes.
And people travel from across state lines to come and see you.
Yes.
Technically, you didn't need to be coming home. What made you choose to?
Well, you know how they say home is home.
So you were missing the authentic fufu.
Oh, man. No, the too zafi.
Okay.
And what it is that, I mean, at some point I'd like to settle back home in Ghana. And that's the vision that I've had the last 10 years, So I said, first I was just checking it out to see how the environment is like. Then I enjoy every time that I come because I have colleagues, year group that I hang out with, and reminisce on old times. It's great. Then I still have some family that I interact with, and we go and have dinner and stuff like that. So it's like now, because I own my own practice, I can manage my time. Right. If I was employed by somebody, I would have a lot of restriction. So I'm actually enjoying the best of both worlds. And the more I come home, I see that there's a big void. And to say that, to me, just last week, I had a patient who came who lives in Tamale. She and her husband, both Americans, on missionary. And the wife has had 4 kids, and she has developed big varicose veins. And she started bleeding, and she's bled twice. So she, looked around, searched for someone who can do a procedure for her, and she found me. So she came and saw me, and I said, okay. I got my technician to do a vein mapping, ultrasound to look at the vein. And I said, okay, this is the problem you have, and I can fix it for her. She said, really? So they had booked Airbnb, and the following day, I took her to the theater and fixed the problem for her. And she stayed one more day at home and then went back. She was so grateful. She says, man, you saved me from going back to America, because she couldn't find anybody, because what we do now with the veins is minimally invasive.
Right.
We don't do any vein stripping. We use either heat, that is radio frequency or laser, to close the vein. And sometimes we can use what they call Venasil, which is like a medical glue that when it meets blood, it just clots and then closes the vein. So fortunately, I'm able to offer that service here. So I see that I'm becoming more relevant, to society, and makes me think that at some point it may be necessary for me to set up a place and train some people, because I look young, but I'm getting old.
Indeed, you do look young, and it's a good thing that you're thinking about, developing the next generation of people who can take the science and the practice, to the next level.
Yes.
That's a really good thing. So help me appreciate what it was like growing up. I kind of get a sense that you've always been a very curious person.
Sure. I was, when you're young, curiosity gets you into trouble. Growing up, if you touch everything, growing up, I had, my family, the three oldest siblings, and then 3 youngest siblings.
So you were right there in the middle.
Well, I was with the 3 youngest, but I was the youngest of the
first 3.
No, of the second.
Okay.
And then my sister came after me.
Right.
So basically, the older ones will hang out together. 3 of them will hang out together, and then the next batch where 3 will hang out together. And I was the youngest of the 3.
Oh, the second batch.
Yes.
Okay.
And my sister, she will, also do her own thing. And my dad was with the Ministry of Education, and he was an artist, and he taught art in the schools, and then he was also a sculptor. And he went to London School of Technology, and started. He would sometimes catch us, and says, "Look, let me just do a little thing of you." So you had to sit down a long time for him to be able to
do a painting or
yes. And so I enjoyed all of that, But the key thing really was that my mom. She was, had a business at Makola, and I was very close to her in terms of, I would help her in Makola. And I remember when I was in high school, sometimes I would go with her, and then she would put the money in a thing, they have, and then
put it around around and then tie it around the.
I put it around my waist, and I was carrying, moving around, and so I learned different survival skills, during that time, and it got me really interested in different things. I would experiment with anything, and some got me into trouble. But at the end of the day, look at where I am.
No, but what's really exciting about the short history you just given me is the fact that your father was a teacher, and a sculptor.
Right.
You're sculpting.
Well,
you have desires of teaching.
Yeah.
You took an MBA as a doctor. Yeah. Not a lot of doctors go and learn the business of.
That's true.
So these things played a role, albeit maybe subconsciously. But if you look back now, would you say that connecting the dots, these were potentially very important periods of your life?
Absolutely. When I look back, because, I probably would have stopped when I ventured into cosmetic surgery. If I didn't, it's the artistic part of it, of me, that allowed me to excel. That allowed me, because there are people who are, top-notch. They get A's in everything. When they get into cosmetic surgery, they can attract patients, because cosmetic surgery, when you're doing cosmetic surgery, nobody employs you. if you're a plastic surgeon, someone will employ you. But if you're doing cosmetic surgery, you're on your own. And
You better be good.
because the only way to survive is to get repeat business, you know. And when I come to Ghana, patients find me, and I said, "How did you hear about me?" I mean, recently I had someone, just 2 days ago, I had someone coming all the way from Gambia, and I did procedure on her. Looks great. She's very happy. She says, "Look, my people want using me as guinea pig, and they want to know what I do." I had 2 patients. The one that I was showing with the filler, she's coming from Togo, So I'm getting people from all over West Africa, and my vision is for Ghana. Look at the beautiful airport we have. And this is the year of return and the tourism that's going on. My vision is to have a center for cosmetic surgery in Ghana here that will bring people from all West Africa. And, if we're able to get other doctors who are interested, who can learn and be able to sustain it, I think it will be great for medical tourism.
So for you, scale.
Yes.
Scale is important.
Absolutely. And, with my business background, I have enough skills to be able to guide them and show them the ropes and, and mentor them, and be able to, take it to another level.
Wow. Okay. Now, there are tough days and easier days. I'd like you to recall one of the most difficult days as a cosmetic surgeon and how you were able to get around it.
Well, let's take a day in the operating room, and I had this patient who essentially we did a procedure on her. What we were going to do, we're able to, just lipo, fat transfer, tummy tuck. And I didn't anticipate for the procedure to be that long, and we just went on and on and on because she had so much fat, and fortunately, took about 7 hours, for us to get it together. And, I was just tired. I said, man, what am I doing here? It's just that kind of situation. Sometimes you think you're going to spend 6 hours or so, 4 hours in an operating room, end up 6, 7 hours, and you can't just stop.
You have to finish what you started.
Absolutely.
However long it takes.
Yeah, and if I had someone who had a similar experience working with me, I could take a break, they can continue, and then I'll come back. But a lot of times, the people that I used to have somebody who actually trained, and then eventually they decided to come and compete with me.
Okay.
So I stopped using it, but that's fine. That's life. But then, I bring in people who are qualified surgically, to assist me, but they don't have the flair for cosmetic surgery, so I cannot leave anything.
And say you continue.
Exactly.
That would create problems.
Yes. Hopefully, one day, we should get to that point.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, great stuff. We're going to take our final break, and then when we come back, we'll learn some more as we wrap up the conversation with Dr. Kwasi Debra. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the Executive Lounge with me, Inshira Ado, and my guest, Dr. Kwasi Debra. Now, Doc, fantastic idea to build a center of excellence where people can be trained, have a center that will attract business from across the sub-region, if not beyond. One of the biggest things that have always been said about us as a people, Ghanaians, is that we're unable to collaborate very well. and grow things. How do you foresee getting around this hurdle? Because, of course, from what you've described, you wouldn't be doing it alone.
Well, I believe that, I mean, what you actually, what you said is very true. It's been my observation, and you never know what people are thinking when they even come in, to work with you. Being that people are looking to maybe learn and move on. But the bigger picture is maturity and exposure. It's easier to survive on 10% of a very big thing than 100% of nothing. And once people understand that, then that is the first step. The second step really is document the contract and let people understand how they are going to make money. Okay? And a lot of people don't understand, they don't want to know, and sometimes they come on TV or they get a free show and people start calling them, they think, oh, I have arrived. But when people start calling you, they're a long way from making decisions. Because you get a free show, sometimes people think that they can get free service because they saw a free show. So at the end of the day, I think it's all going to fall into place when people begin to understand that there is a contract in place, and it's you eat what you kill. And so if you come in and you have that mentality of you eat what you kill, remembering that a percentage of what you kill has to go for marketing, it has to go for paying staff, it has to go for overhead. Then
that keeps the entity together.
Exactly.
Okay.
So once you break these things down for people, that's where you can separate people up. And, having been around, in Maryland, I had a doctor who was working for me for 10 years. She's a vascular surgeon. And fortunately, I was able to give her a job that, she worked for 10 years on. And, every time she said she's going to quit, and, she's going to quit until she found someone. She left and she wants to come back. So, I believe I'm patient enough and understanding enough working with people. Sometimes people will fool me, but that's okay. But at the end of the day, once everything is set up right and we have an attorney draft a document and we have some restrictive covenant, and then we have, some of the things that lawyers, use to do some things to make things work. I think that is going to be okay.
Yeah. Finally, how did you develop or what does it take? How would you advise somebody who's looking to venture into any field of work and would require collaborative, partnerships to make it work? How do you develop the people skill that can help you ensure that when you're pitching your vision to people, they see the same thing you're seeing and they're able to work with you?
Well, someone looking into that area needs to have experienced it themselves, because when I started out in Richmond, Virginia, I was working for a group of African-American doctors. I went in became a partner eventually, and then, so I've experienced that, and I know what it takes. Now, it's good when people are interested, to first, find out what their vision is, where they see themselves, how, and what they, what it takes. And customer service is so important. Just be, it doesn't hurt to be nice to people, and really that's for me, that's the thing. When people come into my consulting room, first thing, I introduce myself, I shake hands with them, and I say, welcome, and we start talking. We start talking social stuff, and then they get warm, and they get comfortable. So then we start getting into stuff. So that customer service, in medicine, and especially cosmetic surgery, is so important, So if anybody is interested, they really, and they can actually watch some videos on, people who have established themselves, and they give their biography about people. I think it's important for people to learn.
See how other people have done it.
Exactly.
And pick some lessons from that.
Exactly.
Hopefully they would pick some lessons from our conversation as well.
Yes.
Thank you so much for availing yourself to have a chat with us on the show.
Oh, thank you for having me on this, your, they call it auspicious.
Well, there's guests like you that make it auspicious, But at this point, I'm going to share my 5 takeouts from this conversation. Number 1 is never depart from curiosity. It's quite interesting that a lot of the great people we've spoken to, people who have expressed themselves and followed their own passion, quite often hinge the beginning of their journey on being curious. The number 2 lesson or takeout from this conversation with Dr. Kwasi Debra is have faith in people. People are going to hurt you. People are going to disappoint you. But invariably, if you're going to find good people, you'll find them amongst people. So have faith in people. And you should be able to leverage the collaborative powers of coming together. Number 3 is that never stop learning. So started out, qualified as a medical doctor, internist, then moved into obs and gynae, then did an MBA, after which then he says, okay, I'll drop the obstetrics and then focus on gynae and do cosmetic surgery. So consistently adding value to yourself is important. It's as if we forget that when we're told to multiply, multiplication is actually adding layers of new skill, new knowledge, that will put you in great stead. Number 4, always remember to give back. And the critical thing in all of this is that, Kwasi says, I'm growing. I may look young, I'm growing, but I would like to see other people practice what I'm doing and even take it to the next level. So he's thinking about a center that trains people. So you need to think about how do you give back some of what you have to society. It doesn't have to be the wealth that you have stashed in a bank account, but your skill that you can transfer to someone who can then take it to the next level. Number 5 for me is remember you're a human being, that you'll make mistakes, that you have limits to which you can go, but more importantly, that you will have to account for everything that you do. It's been a wonderful time coming your way with another edition of the Executive Lounge. A big thank you to our friends at Villa Monticello and the entire team. And again, to Dr. Kwasi Debra for appearing and sharing your thoughts with us.
Thank you, Insha.
Thank you so much.
And your team for having me.
Wonderful. And to you for watching us. Once again, we'll come your way with more on the next episode of the Executive Lounge. As always, go forward, make rain, shalom. I am Insha.